Hello, my name is Katie Wisniewski. I'm the Middle Tennessee Regional Interpretive Specialist for Tennessee State Parks, and I'm here today to talk to you about the women's suffrage movement. On August 18th, 1920, Tennessee played a pivotal role in the ratification of the 19th Amendment. It provided the 36th and final state needed to ratify the amendment federally. The amendment states the right of the United States citizens to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of sex. The women's suffrage movement is widely known to have started with the Seneca Falls Convention in 1848, and it was a long 72-year struggle to get to the ratification in 1920. The first real stance that we see from Tennessee women isn't until the 1870s. Lyde Meriwether of Memphis decided to start a women's suffrage group. By 1897, there were at least 10 groups across the state, and these suffrage leaders would travel statewide. Eventually, there ended up being 70 pro-suffrage groups across the state of Tennessee. African-American suffragists, including Mary Church Terrell, originally of Memphis, and Juno Frankie Pierce of Nashville, advocated for both the vote and civil rights. These women fought for what they believed in. They would make their own signs, they would make buttons to wear, whether they were pro or anti-suffrage. They would go on marches. There were even some women that would call out the president and ask him what he was doing for the women's suffrage movement. However, not all women were pro-suffrage. There were many women that were fearful that women participating in politics would lead to a breakdown in family life, and so they took a firm stance and were anti-suffrage. This became known as the War of the Roses because women and men who were pro-suffrage would wear yellow roses, and women and men who were anti-suffrage would wear red roses. By the summer of 1920, 35 of the 36 states needed to ratify the amendment federally had passed the law in their state. 8 states had not yet voted, and 5 states had rejected it. At this time, suffragists turned their sights to Tennessee and Nashville specifically to see if they could get the vote to pass in Tennessee. Intent on influencing the legislature, both leaders of the pro and anti-suffrage movement decided to make their home base the Hermitage Hotel. This was right down the road from the Capitol, and a lot of legislatures, representatives, and senators would go there for drinks and dinner after assembly. It became a prime spot to be able to talk to these men and influence them one way or another. On August 9th, Governor Roberts, the governor of Tennessee at the time, ordered a special session of the Tennessee General Assembly specifically to talk about women's suffrage. Both pro and anti-suffrage women traveled from all across the country to Nashville specifically for this vote. On the morning of August 18th, both pro and anti-suffragists overflowed in the hall of the Tennessee General Assembly. As roll call began, heads began to turn to the youngest member of the House of Representatives, Harry Byrne. Harry Byrne was publicly anti-suffrage. He wore a red rose on his lapel because the person that was elected before him in that seat was publicly anti-suffrage. Harry thought that he was representing his county by also voting anti-suffrage. But in his pocket was a letter from his mother, Feb Byrne. The letter housed general news about the family farm and goings-on, but at the end, Harry Byrne's mother decided to put in a good word for pro-suffrage. She wrote, "Dear son, hurrah and vote for suffrage, and don't keep them in doubt. I've been waiting to see how you stood, but have not seen anything yet. Don't forget to be a good boy and help Mrs. Catt," referring to the legendary suffragist Carrie Chapman Catt. "With lots of love, Mama." With that, Representative Byrne changed his vote to pro-suffrage, which would eventually tip the House in favor of the ratification of the amendment. According to eyewitness accounts, there was a long moment of silence and shock. Then an explosion, a roar never heard in the old State House. The chamber shook with screams and cries and thumping and whooping. On August 24th, Governor Roberts certified the Tennessee's ratification of the 19th Amendment, and 2 days later, U.S. Secretary of State issued a proclamation that officially declared the ratification of the 19th Amendment, making it part of the United States Constitution. As we come up on the centennial of the ratification of the 19th Amendment that gave women the right to vote, it is important to remember the role that Tennessee played and how long of a struggle it was for women to gain the right to vote. Because of Tennessee, 27 million women were given the right to vote, and they used that power to change the political system for the better. Tennessee will forever hold an important piece in the long 72-year struggle that was the women's suffrage movement. Thank you for watching this video. If you are at all interested in digging deeper into women's suffrage and the women's suffrage movement, I will link some resources for you guys down below. And Tennessee State Parks are committed to telling stories of Tennesseans, and we will hopefully be doing a lot more on the women's suffrage movement because of the centennial.